This entire military is one cohesive, dedicated force. And the threats to our nations, they don't sleep. They're watching our every move. Iran, Russia, China, North Korea, ISIS, Al-Qaeda. They may be watching this right now. Our military should not be mistaken for a cable news gabfest show. We don't care what you look like. We don't care who you voted for, who you worship, what you worship, who you love. It doesn't matter if your dad left you millions when he died or if you knew who your father was. We have been honed into a machine of lethal moving parts that you would be wise to avoid if you know what's good for you. We will not be intimidated. We will not back down. We've seen war. We don't want war. But if you want war with the United States of America, there's one thing I can promise you, so help me God. Someone else will raise your sons and daughters.
I want to make it clear that the views expressed by our hosts are not considered the official stance of MBR Views. Remember, this is all about having fun and enjoying the ride.
Find us on the
Welcome back to the Battle Rhythm podcast. I am Caesar, your host. We're here live on Military Broadcast Radio and also on Roku TV, Amazon Fire, and we are back on our regular website on the nbrradio.us or nbr.us. So, just come find us. We are here today. We are going to have some great guests tonight. I do have one great show today. I feel like we're going to get something done tonight. I have all three of the national junior vice commander candidates for the VFW for 2026. I have them all tonight. We're going to do I don't want to call it a debate. I think we're going to do some questions and answers if you guys want to call in and actually go through this. It's going to be super fun. I'm going to bring in, at this time, the Department of Alabama, current state commander, Eric Dudash. So let's welcome him in with a big Battle Rhythm podcast. Welcome, sir. Hey. How are you?
Hey, good. I'm glad to be back on, Caesar.
I'm glad to see that you finally shaved after 30 years.
Yeah, just clean cut. I'd say lean and mean, but man, those days are gone, man.
Well, you're mean, but not lean anymore.
That's right, dude. That's right.
Those days are gone, my friend. Those days are gone. So, we'll see how it is. But how's everything going for you?
No, it's going good. It's been a busy. The last time we were on together, it was before the holidays. I think you were having a vacation. We had a good show that night. We were talking about, oh man, that fishing event that was going on. Those volunteers that put on the event for the kids. What was the name?
Oh yeah. It was for the Kids Benefit Foundation.
That's right. Yeah.
It's all for the kids.
Yeah, so that was awesome talking about them. But other than that, me and the wife, we went on a cruise, took our first vacation, so that was a blast.
I heard you got invited to the inauguration.
No, I did not get invited to the inauguration. No, I got invited to my recliner to watch it, dude.
That's what I mean. You had the chips and the wok, so you're fine.
Yeah.
I did see the commander in chief though. I did see Al Liphart on there. They actually had him on the camera for like 3 seconds. I was like, wow, he's there. Right, cool. I mean,
I know. I even stopped and had to take a photo of it. You know what I mean? he looked great. Him and Carol being on there, and what an honor it was to have him on there as our commander in chief and be at the inauguration. I thought, man, that's legit right there.
Yeah,
that's what it's about. Cool. That's what it's about. And then cool. we just had our midwinter. I know you guys did too. So in Texas, so
we did.
We had a good time. Oftentimes we always talk about it in the Veterans of Foreign Wars. We say, what is your why? Why are you part of the VFW? Why do you do what you do? And man, we really hit that home. I know you guys in Texas do the same thing, but being able to define, this is why we do what we do. We take care of each other. We take care of our communities. We take care of, veterans that haven't even served yet, and we're taking care of them, dude. So
exactly.
Yeah.
it's you're serving all veterans, not just veterans of foreign wars, right?
That's
Because
right.
because even our lobbyists are in DC. They work for all veterans, not just the veterans for, because they were all, we're all tied together one way or another, right? So
That's right.
only a few are able to, or sorry, only the ones that are eligible for the VFW are represented by the VFW. But really, all of our work is for all veterans, not just us. You know what I mean?
That's
So,
right. That's right. Yeah. No,
but
it's awesome, dude. So
all right.
yeah, it's been going good, man. But how about you? Tell me about you. You had a
Uh,
vacation?
it wasn't a vacation. I actually had surgery on
Oh, what?
in December. Yeah, I had some issues that had been kind of putting off
Got you.
for a
Got
while.
you.
So
Got
now
you.
I was able to actually get it. So, but hey, dude, with no further ado, let me bring one of our guests in. He is right now he's battling with the snow. He's out there shoveling snow that they'd never ever get. So let's bring him in. This is going to be, and actually this is going to be our interview of the week, because, like I said, I'm going to have all three of the candidates for the junior vice for national. So let me bring him in. Let me do my thing first, because this is huge for my show, and this is the interview of the week.
Interview of the week, sponsored by LTD Tactical.
All right, please welcome to the stage, Mr. Bobby Laverne. And your mic is off right now. There you go. Can you hear us now?
I can hear you.
All right, Bobby, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. How about y'all?
All right, how's that snow treating you?
Brother, us Cajuns, we ain't built for that snow. We can think of hurricanes, tornadoes, flood. Snow ain't nothing we can play with.
But hey, listen, at least you're gonna have some frozen shrimp, so which is fine.
I ain't got to worry about going fishing. I'm gonna go netting. We just got to ride through the bayou with a net and pick them up off the bayou.
There you go. Well, at least we know where to go in about a week when all this snow is gone. We know exactly where to go, where to find food. So, I was Happy New Year to you. I haven't talked to you since last year, really, to be honest with you. Since actually, I think since National. So how you doing?
It was the last time we talked. Yep. How you doing?
I was telling Eric that I was doing okay. I had some surgery over the Christmas winter break. But other than that, I mean, just chugging along and just getting all of our work done within our post, within our district and everything. So we're doing the work, putting in the work.
There you go. Yep, same thing here, man. Been busy with the post work and also district. I was district voice of democracy chairman this year, so trying to learn the Scholars app and how all of that worked, and got a pretty good handle on it. It came out pretty good program.
Right. So how many?
I was gonna add in, Caesar. I was gonna tell Bobby, isn't that freaking awesome when you get to honor the future of America, man? When you see all these voice of democracies and Patriots Pen, I always tell people the future is absolutely bright. You just listen to these people, these young adults, man. They're crushing it. You notice that lately, Bobby? Or
Yeah, we had some really good speeches that came out, especially on the district level, and then the state level. Our winner will be announced next week at our midwinter conference. But I know our winner from District 2 in Louisiana did really well. So it'd be exciting to see where she places. Too bad I won't be there. I'll be in South Carolina campaigning.
oh man,
that
I'll be up in
campaign.
DC. I'll be up in DC for you.
See, I knew you were going to go to the inauguration, but like 2 weeks later.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, I'll be in DC. I'm just saying I won't be at our midwinter
Okay.
conference next weekend. I'll be in South Carolina visiting the Department of South Carolina next weekend.
Gotcha.
So, how many districts does Louisiana have? Do you know?
We got 10 districts.
Man, see, we got 29.
Yeah, y'all got a. It takes forever to go through y'all stuff.
Takes you 24 hours to go across the state driving. Good night.
Yep.
Yeah, it is, and I know that we just came back. some of our people just came back from Corpus Christi because that's where it was,
Right.
and they're like, oh man, it was crazy because everybody was worried that this storm was actually going to get hit, so they're like, oh, we don't want to get stuck. And some people flew, some people came or drove and everything. So the ones that drove are like, oh no, we want to come back. So they're like, we got to come back early to make sure that it's not that we don't get stuck.
Right.
So, but so it goes like that. But I'm pretty sure. Like, how long does it take you to get to the farthest district that you have
What,
there, Bobby?
in our state?
Yes.
I can make it from here to Bossier City, which is the furthest north, and I'm down in the southern part of the state in about 5 hours.
That's manageable because then you can pretty much make it like a one day or maybe like overnight.
Right.
For us, it's like no, we're gonna be gonna be forever. We're gonna be forever. So, all right. So, I want to ask you though, and you've been camping, I believe, for quite a quite a bit. I think a little bit longer than the other two candidates. So, in the travels that you've done, what has been the one thing that you've seen the most as far as the recurring themes or the recurring questions that people want to address within the VFW?
How are we going to move forward? How are we going to get out of the stalemate of that's the way we've always done it? What's your plan to move us forward and bring new ideas and new technologies and update everything that we got going to make the VFW move forward to get us in the mainstream.
And then how do you see how do you foresee actually being able to do that within the time that you're there, from junior to the time that you actually, if you do get elected to become the commander in chief? How do you plan to move forward from there?
You got to start. The election takes place this August, and you got to start setting your plan in action. Got to work with the commander in chief, who's going to be in office, and then work with the senior vice, junior vice, because you're only in the office 1 year, so you
Right.
can't wait to that year that you're in there to try to make your changes. You need to work it throughout your time in the chairs, and that's the big deal. You got to be able to work with the team that's in front of you.
And have you gotten to the point where you've already have people in mind, and is your team almost fully ready if you do get elected?
I mean, I won't. There's a couple people that I know would play where I want them to be at on the team, and there's other ones I have in mind. But I'm not gonna make any decisions until we take in the elections held and
Right.
we get everything done from there. You don't want to count your chickens before it's hatched.
Right.
But you in the back of your mind, you got to have a plan set as far as who you're gonna want to help you get where you want to go.
At least, I'm pretty sure that, and this is what I've heard from other candidates that are actually running and everything. They'll have a campaign manager, and i.e., basically like a chief of staff. That's basically, that's going to be like your running partner, and the entire time they're going to be your chief of staff. They're going to be able to have you, help you through and whatnot. Is that the gist of it? Basically, what is that correct?
Sometimes the chief of staff is your campaign manager. Sometimes it's not. Uh, I got a good idea who I want as my chief of staff. That's one of the main characters you got to put in. Also, your budget chairman, because your
Right.
budget chairman moves through the chair with you from the time you're a designee on up. So they make all of the meetings with you from the day you get elected on up through commander. So that's a person that you need to be able to sit back and have those long discussions with about where we're going to get the funds to do what we want to do.
And how do you foresee? I mean, I'm still relatively new within the organization. I really want to understand, because budget obviously is a huge thing, because you're going to be traveling, doing all this stuff. What is it? What is your plan to be able to actually raise money to be able to actually help not only your campaign, but also help the organization all together? What is it that how are you going to be able to do that? Like, what is your
But
plan?
National has, they have the hard fundraising company that takes and does a lot of the fundraising for National. Your budget chairman, what he mainly does is work with within the departments in the headquarters and have them present their budget, what they think they're going to need for membership, what they think they're going to need for programs, and all the way through there. And he's just got to manage that, and then whatever the commander in chief wants to put in, that's where that guy needs to work from the day you start on up, because the budget for next year is already in work.
How many years in advance is the budget in work?
They started budget. The budget started for next year. They started working that when Carol was a junior vice. They started working and talking to her about what her plan was and what her goals were for
Mhm.
what she wants. And then you got to juggle the money around. And as part
Yeah.
of the National Council of Administration, that's part of our job is to approve the budgets as they go. So I've got 2 years on the council already. I'm in my third year now, working on a budget to make sure that we got it going according to what Carol needs, what Tim will need next year when he moves up, and go from there with it.
Right. And okay, so I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that are mostly aligned with the type of leadership. So what type of leadership style do you think you have, or do you mostly like, or you mostly resemble to?
You got to take and put people around you that have the same mindset and want to work towards one goal. You don't need to have people on your team that's got other agendas that they want to work. So when
Uh-huh.
you put your team together, you got to have them all, you know, pull them together and say, hey, this is our agenda. This is where we want to go. I need you on board with this agenda. And it's got to be one team, one goal, and let's make it happen.
And with that, obviously having a very diverse team, right? Because everybody's going to be from different areas, different ideologies and whatnot, as far as customs and whatnot. How
Right.
do you motivate and how do you inspire your team?
The main thing is listen to them. You can't just go in there with a strong arm and say, this is what we're going to do. Take their ideas. They might have a better way of getting to the end product than what you got. So take
Mhm.
their ideas, work with them, and come together with one. You bring the idea up and said, okay, how can we get there and make this happen? But in the most efficient and fun way to make sure everybody's working to get the bottom line done.
And the second part of that is how do you build trust and collaboration within your immediate team?
That's what you're doing now. Uh, all of these states that I've visited, all of the people I've met throughout the VFW,
Mhm.
the national conventions, within the conferences and everything. That's where you take and get to know the people. And, yeah, we'll be representing the Southern Conference as the commander in chief. But if you want to stick and have everybody on your team from the Southern Conference, it's not a good perception. You need to take and have people from outside the conference to help as well. And
Mhm.
that's what you're doing now by taking, when you're at national convention, you out there talking to everybody. You're not just talking to people from your conference.
Mhm. So I want to ask you, like, can you describe to me, like, what is your approach, and when you have the so many people within your team that like I said, like I mentioned before, different personalities, different things, that are here. How do you approach and managing such a high performing individual that that may need some development, right? Because some people may maybe their strong suit is talking to people. Their strong suit the others maybe their strong suit is actually working behind the scenes. How do you approach and managing those high performing individuals?
When you get them on there, you find what they're good at, and that's where you want to have them. You don't want to take somebody that's good at fundraising and put them in charge of recruiting. You
Hmm.
want them in charge of fundraising. You find out what that person's good at, and that's where you assign them and you have them work that area. But they can also help out on the recruiting aspect because they might could be out there recruiting and get a big donor that comes up and says, hey, and they can talk more on the fundraising side while they're taking at a recruiting event.
Hmm.
So
And
you got to put the people in the position for what they are good at and what that they can accomplish for you.
okay. and I know I'm asking you a bunch of random questions that that we have.
That's
but
fine. I can jump off. Hey, I was a recruiter. I was a recruiter for 7 years. I can take and get with it.
Okay, good. So we've come to the time of the show that I have to legally take a break here on MBR Radio because we are still a radio station, so we actually definitely have to take a break. So when we come back, we're gonna keep asking Bobby a few more questions. And then I'm still waiting for Scott is on, but he's having issues with his camera. And then Mr. Toomer I'm still waiting for him to check in, so he'll probably be in the next few minutes. But I am going to take a break real quick. Bobby, when we come back, we're going to keep asking you these hard questions, like I mentioned before. So we're gonna look into that. And we have some questions from our social media, and we're going to put those up for you when we come back. And then we'll go from there. Okay, so guys stay here with me. We are here with the Battle Rhythm podcast live on MBR Radio, Roku TV, Fire TV, and also on all our social media. So we'll be back in a few minutes.
It's the guts and it's the glory. 100 stripes, 100 stories. It's the Pledge of Allegiance on the 4th of July. It's them handwritten letters from home. It's them sleepless nights alone. It's his newborn baby he left with his wife. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's a line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes, hey. From the fields of Indiana to the swamps of Louisiana to the golden coast of California, Uncle Sam's the only family he's got. His purple heartbeat won't stop, and his 18th birthday was the day he was born. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, here's the light. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, stand on the front line. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, pay the ultimate price. He was the man of the house when he was born. His family is proud but torn. But if you knew him, you would understand. He was raised on how to be brave, just to see the flag still wave. And then he came home with only one hand. 'Cause Mr. Red, White, and Blue, lay down, hear the light. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, stand on these front lines. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, he'll pay the ultimate price. Lay down in the light. Mr. Red, White, and Blue, for these stars and stripes. March in line, march in line. Hey. Hey.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Welcome back to the Battle Rhythm podcast. I am Caesar, and I am now joined by Scott Gedling Sir, how are you?
Doing great, brother. How are you?
I'm living the dream one night at a time. So before you got on, we were talking to Bobby, and I want to ask a couple of questions to Bobby still, because there was actually a question that was brought up on our socials, and I want to ask. This is what Dave is asking. It's with looking forward. Is there a plan to expand the PAC Act or separate legislation to be more inclusive of veterans who served in conflicts such as Haiti to have their medical conditions recognized by DoD and VA?
That right there is something that we'd have to work through the VA with, and also through the legislators. That's not something that the commander in chief can automatically say, "Hey, we want this approved." But we have our Washington office that works that together, and they are the ones who actually worked the PACT Act to get it all done when Tim Borland was commander in chief. But it's all working together, and that's one of the things I always say that we got to take in. Part of the 3Fs is fight for veterans.
Mm-hmm.
And part of my plan is to work with the other VSO service organizations to take and come up with one plan where we go in there and talk the same stuff to the legislators. We can go in and talk one thing, the Legion can go in and talk something else, and then they confused on what we need to do. We need to combine it all together and say, hey, we want this all work together. And that would be something that would needs to be brought up through that, through the legislation and through our Washington office, who's always on Capitol Hill testifying and working with the legislatures up there.
That's Ryan Gallucci, right? That's he's
Right. Ryan Gallucci,
he's the executive
Mike
director of the.
Miglioli, Pat Murray, all of those guys up there.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then there's a follow up from Bobby Lee, not the Bobby Lee, but Bobby Lee, with the national organization developing and standing up for marketing department. What is your strategy to utilize that money to formulate a plan that will allow departments and posts to nest a strategy to fit their market to attract new members?
This is something that's just getting kicked off right now. With the marketing department, the money was put in the budget this past August to take and start a marketing department. And you got to crawl before you can walk. And we learn it. We want to make sure we got the right people in place in that marketing department to develop the things on a national level that can come down into the departments and districts and posts. But it's going to have to take and be work first on a national level, and then we can start working it down towards the departments, posts, and districts. But I would like to see more, and I had this conversation with another council member today, with the marketing department as far as getting us involved more on podcasts, on Netflix, stuff like that. Everybody talks about, oh, billboards. How many people actually look at the billboards when you're driving?
I think billboards are pretty much a thing of the past.
Right. So now the big thing is all of these podcasts, these Netflix. Now the NFL's on Netflix. You got all of these things. Get up. Let's try to see what it would take to get us involved as a sponsorship on mainstream media and stuff like that, where people are actually taking and watching shows and sporting events and things like that.
Yeah, that's Bobby Lee, great question. That was something that, I wanted to talk to our future candidates about, because with this initiative, with this marketing department that National has gotten, I mean, let's look at it. We're all meeting here on a podcast. 10 years ago, unheard of. This is not what we would have been doing. What I really enjoy, and Bobby, you brought it up, as far as the importance of team, the importance of having good teammates around you. Me and Caesar talked about moving mountains and such. But I do like, hearing from both of you, your viewpoints on that. As far as, we get so stuck in the posts, so stuck in the four walls. We have legislative that we're getting ready to go talk about. We just talked about the PACT Act, and being able to get on social media with the veterans that are still raising families. This is how they need to communicate with our national representatives. Their voice needs to be heard, and as you know, sometimes that gets difficult. How would you ensure that you're hearing from every single? You can't really literally do it, but how are you going to listen or be able to hear from every post member nationwide?
Scott, you want to? I'll take it. The main thing we got a lot of these Facebook pages, different Facebook pages that are monitored by national, and when big items come up, you'll get response from national, or our commander in chief, he'll reply to certain things. That's where you got to have somebody. You can't manage all of this yourself. You got to take and have the right people. Hey, this is a hot topic. Maybe you need to get involved with it. And 5 years ago, who heard of Zoom? All of a sudden, during COVID, we became Zoom experts.
Mhm.
That was my year as state commander. Was in hell, all of my conferences and everything else, conventions were held by Zoom. But that is something. And when I became Southern Conference chairman, that's one thing I did. I held Zoom meetings with all of the department commanders within the Southern Conference to get their ideas and pick their brains on what they wanted to get done and what they would like to see done. And I think that's really important that we continue doing Zoom meetings, do podcasts, get involved with that. We do have a VFW podcast with Rob Couture up in DC. He does it. And we have different media outlets, and started with Dwayne. He started putting videos out on different events and different current events that was happening within the nation. And I think that's something where we can reach out and say, hey, this is what we're doing. If you got anything, reply back to this, and then we have somebody monitoring that for us and letting us know the hot topics we need to get involved with.
Right.
Yeah,
Scott,
copy.
did,
Thanks,
did
bro.
you have something? Scott, I knew you. I think you raised your hand. I was like, sir, you just yeah.
Yeah, a little bit about the marketing. I mean, probably Bobby knows on marketing and supporting this marketing program. And when we started out, it started out in our department. My guys, before I went to the first council meeting, I said, what do y'all want to see out of national? And they started talking about marketing. They started talking about American Legion, DAV, seeing the ads, seeing the Facebook, seeing billboards. And so I started pushing the issue. And, I got pushback in the beginning pretty hard. I mean, we just now got this. I've been on council 3 years, but now we got marketing department started. And things were said like about the DAV or the American Legion ads or the billboards or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, they get a lot of feedback on the likes, dislikes, or comments. And a lot of them are whatever. But, the truth is a lot of that is their own membership from those organizations that push back. And we got to remember who our audience is. I mean, some of it is to our own members to reinforce our ideas and what we're trying to market and sell. But we got to look at that audience out there and make it appealing to them, catch their attention that says, this is what the Veterans of Foreign Wars does. I never knew that. And Eric's talked about this is, you get somebody outside and you say, have you ever thought about joining the VFW or the recent join? And they say, well, nobody ever asked me, and I didn't know y'all did all that stuff. So we got to tell our story, and we got to tell what our mission is, what our why is. I mean, we go back to what is our why for this organization? Why did we start 125 years ago? And it was to make sure that the veterans and their families returning from war, the veterans and their families receive the benefits and the care and the honor and recognition that they deserve. And we got to stick with that. That's what we ought to be selling. When you get out and talk to a new member and you recruit one, that's what we're selling. I mean, we don't realize it. We talk about all the time, how do we attract new members, and we got to do family and family oriented and do all that stuff. Well, that's kind of how you get them active in the post. How you get them into the VFW is you sell them our why. It's you're helping your brothers and sisters get them the care and benefits that they deserve, and we're going to advocate on your behalf. We want you to join us in the action to get that done. And so sometimes we just stray away from what we're here for, but we got a great story. We need to market it. We need to get it out there, and we just need to stick to our roots. We need everybody out there to know what the Veterans of Foreign Wars stand for and what we do each and every day.
Scott, let me ask you this. What are the most critical challenges facing the VFW right now, and how would you address them?
I think sometimes the critical challenges, one is patriotism is drawing down in the country. And we don't do a good job of telling our story. And none of the service organizations, a lot of them are seeing some declines. And you got to give people the reasons why they need a VFW. And you got to convince them, we should be inspiring patriotism on every level. The youth programs, absolutely one of the greatest things we do. But don't forget all the programs we do, whether it's Veterans Day, Memorial Day, honoring our fallen. This past week we had one of the repatriated Korean War veterans. They identified as remains here in my little small town, Arab, Alabama. And we had a big funeral. And for that Korean War veteran, killed 19 years old in Korea, identified through DNA of a niece that was still living. And it was a big deal in my town. And, it's just the whole front page of the paper. And people see what the service organizations do, and they see us out there representing. They see us involved in the communities. And to me, deeds speak louder than words. So we gotta do more for veterans, and we gotta let people know that we do more for veterans. But we got to get out there, continue to do the great and wonderful stuff we're doing in the communities. We need, and I can talk about it a little later, about marketing in our audience is not just potential members and other veterans and supporters, but it's our corporate donors. Yeah.
So Bobby, let me ask you the same question. What are the most critical challenges that you see within the VFW, and how would you address them?
I think the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges we got, is maintain the membership we got while growing. You could sign somebody up today. Oh yeah, we'll take care of your dues and everything. You don't take and mentor them. You don't try to get them involved, and they walk out the door the next year. We need to take in right when we sign them up, start mentoring from that day. And the way you could do that is don't sit there and make them, you're going to be commander or you're going to be senior vice. No, get them involved with one of the programs we got. And I'll give you a good example. My post, we were struggling with our safety program, trying to make sure we had people involved with it. I got a young 22-year-old came back from Afghanistan, the Afghanistan vet. We got him in. He went to work for the sheriff's department. I said, hey, would you like to be the safety chairman? He goes, what is it? Gave him the manual, went over with it, started mentoring him. Now we got one of the strongest safety programs in the state of Louisiana. We just did 9 life-saving awards from Valor to line of duty and everything. With, we had EMS of the year this year for our department. We got law enforcement of the year. We got second place firefighter. But he's out there. He's mentored. He's into the program. All of that is part of the community involvement, and let people know that, hey, we're not just here to help the veterans. We're here to support our community as well. And where I live is a real small community. We're the only VFW post in our parish. And so everybody knows where our post is. Everybody comes to our post for different events. But that's one of the biggest things I think we need to do. We need to get people involved, and from the day that we sign them up, and don't just get the application, get their dues money, start getting them involved by mentoring and, helping out, and, let them know right off the bat. You don't have to make every meeting, but we do offer the Zooms. We would like to have you come to and help out what you can. Pick and choose what you want to do, but get them and have them and start mentoring them. And that's the only way you're going to make leaders of the future as well.
Right. And you're right. It's down to the grassroots, right? The grassroots campaign, as everybody else knows, that's how you get things done, right? Because if you don't start with the individual post member, they're not going to be involved, because nobody gets to him, or nobody gets to the new member, and they don't tell them, oh, hey, we do this during this time, and this is why we do it. And then again, I've had a lot of people tell me the same thing. There's 2 types of people that join the VFW. The ones that that have the mindset of, what can I do for the post or the VFW, and what can the VFW do for me? That's the second, right?
And one thing, let me just jump on that. One of the biggest things that whenever you got people out on the recruiting trail, and they just tell them, hey, We just need you in our numbers. When we go sit in front of Congress, we need to have you in the part of our numbers. No, yeah, you're part of the numbers, but you also need to be part of why we do what we do. You need to take and have a say in what we going to fight for, what we going to take and push for. Just like the guy asked about the Haiti stuff and extending the PACT Act. That's what we need to know when we go to DC. We can bring this up. You know, if you're just gonna sit there and be, oh yeah, I'm just part of the number, and you don't do anything, then we just taking your $35 or your $45 for you to be a member, so we could sit up there in front of Congress and say we got 1.4 million VFW and auxiliary members. I would like to have 1.4 million active VFW members. That would be, and that's what you want. You want active. You don't want them just to be a number.
And obviously, you want people to be lifetime members, not just
Right.
annual
That's it.
members, right?
That's the ticket right there.
Because even at the lowest level of being a life member, the post still gets.
It's
Go
not
ahead,
only that, it's just you showing that you are committed to being part of the VFW by being a life member. And, the hardest thing is going out chasing membership. We got 173 members at our post. I got 129 life members.
Mhm.
And what we do every year, we push to get life membership, to upgrade to life membership. I would love to have 173 life members at our post, but it's just to keep working it. And you got to let them know why being a life member is so important.
Now, do you think that that the post itself, or even a district, can actually sponsor those people that you have as annuals and actually sponsor them to actually become the life member? That way, and actually make the post a life member post rather than being an annual. Because I know that some posts are actually trying to transition into actually being a live post rather than an annual post. How do you feel about actually helping out those comrades that that haven't decided that they don't have the money to actually become? How do you propose that could be done? Like, do you think they should be obviously your Ways and Means will be one way to do it, right? Your Ways and Means chairman, or how what other ways can you do that?
You got your relief fund. You could use that to help. And one thing our post started doing, like if we got a member who joins that's a full-time law enforcement, if they pay $100 of their life membership, the post will pick up the rest of it.
Okay.
And that way it's giving them a buy-in, saying, hey, yeah, I bought into this, but they paid this much, and they come in and start helping out more. But and then I know some posts that take and do a monthly drawing that everybody takes a chance, and they'll pull somebody to take and become a life member, and they'll pay it out of that. So there's many ways to do it. Department of Georgia does it quite. The couple times I've been up there, they'll sell tickets, and they'll pull once they get enough for a life membership, they'll pull a name in that person because if they're not a life. If they're a life member already, they buy them a legacy. So, there's many ways to do it, but yeah, the life membership is the way to go.
Scott, what do you feel about that? How do you feel about helping out with that?
Well, I mean, we do the same thing. I think Eric tell you, we do the drawings at the department level and sell raffle tickets, and we get enough of them sold. We draw for a life membership or legacy upgrade. I'm in a little small post, and we do if you come to 7 meetings out of the year, then your name goes in the hat, and we draw out for a life membership. And now we just started this month, starting to help out and give them the first $50 if they'll go life membership, and the post will pay it. And but when we start talking about membership, where we also fall short in this organization is active membership. We got a big number, but you see a lot of posts that don't really have a lot of active participation. It's hard to get out and do stuff in the community and be active. And, there's all kinds of reasons. We talk about younger veterans, and they got small kids, and they got careers, and they got jobs, and those kind of things. But, if you sell them on what our organization stands for and why we exist, if you convince them to join our organization, to be a part of it, that we're going to advocate on behalf of all veterans, we're going to serve our communities and our veterans and the military, that sense of serving gets them on the hook. And it may be years down the road. You keep them in the loop, keep them in the newsletters, keep in touch with them. And they're probably not going to come to a post meeting early on, but when they get to that point in time, I mean, I was the same way. I was a member for 13 years and before I really got active with the VFW, and they'd call me back and have me do speeches at Veterans Day and Memorial Day. But, you know, I didn't get active with the post. I didn't go to regular meetings. I was living in another town. But if we can get these active membership, another thing I say is sell them on Action Corps. So when you recruit a new membership, have the card there in the code and let them join the Action Corps. And even if they don't even join up to the Veterans of Foreign War, they can still be a member of Action Corps. You can tell them they can still help their fellow brother and sister veterans out by being a part of that grassroots efforts, by talking to Congress and legislators. You know, when I went to Capitol Hill after the PACT Act, I mean, I deal with our legislators a lot. I went up there, and in Alabama, we got 7 representatives. And PACT Act came out the first time around the vote. We got 6 Republicans, 1 Democrat. All 6 Republicans voted against PACT Act. Man, it just set us free. So we went to grassroots efforts in Alabama. We went to town halls, and we sent lots of cards and letters. And then when the PACT Act passed, 4 of them had changed their mind and voted for the PACT Act. And I asked them, I just said, hey, tell me the truth. What changed your mind? Was it Commander-in-Chief's testimony or the folks up here on Capitol Hill? And they said, no, it's grassroots efforts. It's cards and letters. When we get those emails and we respond back to those letters, that means something. When one of them shows up in our town hall and is knowledgeable of what the issue is and can really address it and question them and ask them about it, where they stand on it, that's what makes a difference. So if you get them all on Action Corps, we're doing a terrible job at it nationwide. I mean, I think you see that Elizabeth Dole Act had 1% participation of those signed up in the Action Corps. Alabama did well at 1.2%, being the top 5. That's kind of unheard of, really. I mean, that's not really acceptable. I mean, if we're going to make a difference, if we're going to advocate on behalf of veterans, we need to get our butts out there and answer those Action Corps. But, you know, my mantra has been join us in the action. People want to be a part of an organization where folks are out doing something. You know, if you tell them, hey, we're out in the community, we're going to come out here, we're going to build a wheelchair ramp, or we're going to participate in the parade, or we're going to put on a Veterans Day program, or we're going to help veterans in need, or we're going to help youth, and we're going to sponsor youth, you know, scholarship programs, or even, you know, our little post, we sponsor youth athletics, recreation league ball, you know, because a lot of times they have kids that can't afford to pay the rec league fees. So we just said, hey, here's $1,000 and sign them up, and we'll be the sponsor for these young kids. And if you run out of money, holler at us and we'll give you some more money. So we just try and take care of them. But, you know, we got to get out there and get after our mission. Stick to the 2 things: service to our veterans in our community and advocating on their behalf.
Okay, so I have 2 questions that came in from our social media. Scott, I'll start with you, and this is a question from one of our female veterans, female listeners. Her question is, what is your plan to recruit the younger generation of veterans?
Well, I think we talked about a little bit a while ago. How do you get access to them? You know, podcasts, social media, being out in the community, being out in those programs that they're involved in. You know, we're probably going to have to think outside the box. Not probably, we are going to have to think outside the box and get out some of these events that they participate in. You know, whether it be advertising at a concert, just any kind of youth thing that brings youth together. We need to have that out there. Student Veterans Association, man, on college campuses, we are missing the boat that so far. I mean, we do good, but we ought to be supporting everything they do. We should be engaged with them on these college campuses. So that's where your younger veterans are going to be. They come back from war, and now they're in college.
Big transition.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
That's right.
All right, Bobby, let me ask you this one. This one comes from an old friend of the show. He's a post commander of Fort Cavazos, Willie Keller. What is your vision of the VFW will be in 15 to 20 years from now?
How you doing, Willie? 15 or 20 years, I think if we don't start getting younger veterans more involved, VFW be on a decline. But that's where I think we need to change the mindset. We need to take in, just like the question the young lady asked a minute ago, we need to be where veterans are, whether it's Ducks Unlimited, whether it's NRA conventions, whether it's gun shows, where the veterans hang out, that's where we need to be. The same thing with the student veterans. Louisiana started a thing through the Louisiana Department of Veteran Affairs. We have ambassadors at every college that has a student veteran organization on the campuses. We have events held at each of them, and we have VFW representation at all of it to try to get them involved. And, you know, that's where you got to work together with the other service organizations. You got to work together and bring in those people to take and have everybody working to on the same page, saying, "Look, we need to build this as a Back in the day, it was World War II veterans. Then it went to Vietnam veterans. Then it came up to Desert Storm. You're going through the generations of wars, but we need to take and get everybody involved and everybody working to take and have things happen."
Yes. So now we are finally joined by Mr. Lynn Toomer, the past former state commander from Texas. Welcome, Commander. Thanks for coming in.
Man, no problem. Sorry I was late getting in. I got stuck on a job.
Well, career comes first, right? So we're all good. But thanks for coming in.
I got a question, Caesar.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
Hey, man, no, I appreciate again being able to be with you, Caesar, on this and these important topics. And I sit here and I listen to our future candidates, and man, I'm loving it. One thing that we talk about is the new veterans coming in, and we talked about marketing, and we talk about all these things. When I first joined, I'll give you a little hint. When I first joined, I thought, man, all it was about was just getting together within the four walls of my post and having some comradeship. And, that's very, very important. I'm not going to say that's not important. But one thing that really was eye-opening to me, and you guys are touching a little bit about it, and I'm going to ask each of you a question, is we have legislation coming up. We talked about how important, that was eye-opening to me. We talk about membership. We talk about welcoming these new members, these new younger members, the older members. It doesn't matter. One thing that I really I'll say I've been enlightened by is, I tell you what, the younger veterans, they're keeping track of what is going on in legislation. They know it. They know bills before I even hear about them. What I'd like to ask each of you is, what is one piece that we really need to, or that you're more worried about, or maybe you feel it's going good, but what is one piece about legislation that you want to add to the audience? What we need to be concerned about, and how we can possibly fix it?
Commander Toomer, I think we can start with you since you just joined us.
The biggest part of the legislation that we need to push forward now is protecting our veterans' rights. Period. End of story. And the PACT Act is one of the top things that takes care of our health care, takes care of all our veterans. And I think that's where we need to focus on.
Scott, what about you?
I'm going to say it's staying on the VA and gaining some efficiencies there. We as an organization fought really hard for the PACT Act. We fought really hard for the Livable Dole Act. Both of them involve heavily with veterans benefits and continued care and expanding care for veterans. What we don't do good as an organization, or we can do better. I'm not going to say we don't do good. We do really good, but we need to do better is access to service officers, making that process more efficient with the VA. I know they're working on some big computer systems and some enterprise level operations, but it's still a cumbersome system for a veteran to get into the VA and get access to the VA. And we need to do everything we can to expand the amount of service officers we got within our organization, within the VA, with every other organization. Qualified, accredited, competent, and capable of getting the care and benefits to these veterans that they deserve. And we got some progress we need to make there. One of the legislations, and Bobby talked about it a while ago, Lynn, you wasn't on here, but you know, what beyond the PACT Act, and that question was about one of them about expanding the PACT Act to other theaters or other wars. We do have a legislation we're pushing from the VFW that deals with expanding toxic hazard exposure. And the top two priorities in that one was K2, Afghanistan, Kassanabad, or I can't tell you how to pronounce it exactly, but you know, there was a radiation hazard there, nuclear hazard there that exposed a lot of veterans to it. And they're seeing a lot of effects from that. And the other one is right here in Alabama, is Fort McClellan. We had a lot of chemical contamination. We had live agents. We had things. And in the past, that was in the PACT Act. That was part of the PACT Act, just like Camp Lejeune was. And some legislators decided to take that out because they didn't want, Anniston, Alabama to be Toxic Town, USA again, I guess is what I'm going to say, what the representative said about it. But, we can expand those toxic hazard exposures to a lot of other environments that our military was exposed to. And so we can work on that legislation. For me, it's service officers. How do we get more? How do we make the VA work better so that everybody can get the benefits they deserve? It's too hard a process right now. We got to do better.
Bobby, what about you? What is the biggest thing that the question that Eric asked?
I think we need to take and go ahead and continue fighting to make sure we get this Richard Storer Act passed, even though they say it's only for about 55 to 60,000 veterans. There's still 55 or 60,000 veterans that have that benefits coming to them. That you got 300 plus co-signers on the thing. Bring it for a vote. That's all we ask you. Just bring it for a vote. Don't let it sit on the back burner. We push it to the side so we can get the Elizabeth Dole Act passed. Bring the Richard Storer back out. And I agree with Scott with the VA holding it more accountable and also getting more veteran service officers out here that's accredited. We fought our asses off over here in Louisiana to fight that Plus Act. And, Congress don't want to bring it up to do the stop the claim sharks. So we need to bring it to a state level and get them to get involved with it and then show the ones up in DC, hey, we can do it on a state level. You need to do it on a national level. Let's take and stop these claim sharks because it's just taking money out of veterans' pockets.
So I come to the time of the show that I have to take another break. We were taking a break at the top of the hour. So when we come back, we're going to keep talking to the candidates about other things. There's other questions coming in through our social media platforms that we're going to get to, and I'm going to give each one of you the chance to actually answer these guys because I feel that everybody wants to really know where you guys stand on certain issues, and you guys have been bringing up really good questions through our social media, and also have been answering the questions that I think a lot of people have not been able to really hear from a lot of you, because it's hard to go to on the trail to every state or every post, and a lot of people have not been able to see you. Only people that actually go to these conventions or these other things, they're the ones that have seen you, but they have not been able to. Others have not been able to hear what you have to say and why it makes you the best candidate for the job, right? So when we come back, we're going to hit those questions. And again, you're listening to the Battle Rhythm Podcast here on Military Broadcast Radio. We are live on Roku TV, MBR Radio. It's the channel, Fire TV, MB Radio, and then Instagram, Facebook, every platform you can think of, we're on. And just so you guys know, Military Broadcast Radio has 3 channels. One is really a bunch of MBR Talk, which is a bunch of podcasts, MB Radio, which is an actual radio show, and then the last one is our 3rd channel, which is a gaming show. A lot of different gaming people are actually on that. It's probably one of our most popular shows that we have, channels that we have. Because there's a lot of veterans that are actually into gaming, and they like to sit at home and actually game and go through that. So when we come back, we'll ask you guys these questions that everybody's coming through, and we are going to go ahead and just head right to it. We still have another hour to go, so you guys hang in here. Thank you for listening, and we'll be right back.
As he approaches his 96th birthday, Jim Hahn still remembers intimate details about his time serving as a Marine in World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War, and he also remembers how it all started.
Mother wasn't going to sign. I told her, I said, if you don't sign this, I'll lie about my age. And she signed.
He was inspired to enlist when walking down the street at 16 years old. He tells K10 he saw some people messing with a Marine and his girlfriend.
They was doing anything they could try to make him mad. He told his girlfriend there to go down and wait for him at the red light at the end of the street there. He turned around and whipped all four of those guys.
A year later, he was off to San Diego for basic training. Hahn joined the occupation force in both China and Japan during World War II, which marks the only time in the history of Japan that it has been occupied by a foreign power. A bitter time these days, though. Gunnery Sergeant Hahn holds tight to the sweeter moments.
It's going into Japan, into town. I seen all these little kids running around there, and they look like they was hungry and everything else. So I started getting candy from our PX and taking it in there and giving it to the little kids. It got to where whenever I'd come inside the city limits, man, here come all these kids.
What he didn't realize at the time, candy would one day become his lifeline. In November of 1950, just a few months after the Korean War began, 8,000 fighters, mostly Marines, were trapped in the Chonjin Reservoir, surrounded by 120,000 Chinese soldiers. And you guessed it, Sergeant Hahn was one of those Marines.
If somebody told me this, I'd have thought of him as being a liar, because I did not think that it would get 90 degrees below zero. I seen guys just walking along, and all of a sudden I could stop walking, and they just did. They'd freeze to death while they was walking.
Freezing, barely hanging on to life. The Marines called for ammunition using their code word, Tootsie Roll.
I never will forget that. They got on the radio there and talking to them, said, send us some Tootsie Rolls. And they was talking about ammunition, a certain type of ammunition.
Well, the soldier on the other end of that radio took the message literally, and they dropped into the reservoir Tootsie Rolls.
Here's just 3 planes there coming out with these parachutes coming down there with Tootsie Rolls. It's supposed to be ammunition, but it's Tootsie Rolls. But if it hadn't been for them, a lot of us, including me, would probably starve to death.
Those little chocolate candies were the fuel that sustained the troops. All other provisions were frozen, so they survived on the chocolate.
It seemed impossible that they was there for any other reason than to save my life. I thank God many times for the fact that I lived through all of it. Didn't lose any arms or legs or anything that way. I sat in this foxhole, people all around me freezing, and some reason or other I didn't.
He says all he thought about was his next breath and how he would use it.
I don't know, I still think about it sometimes. I know that God saved me from it. Try to thank God 3 or 4 or 5 times a day about that.
Decades later, Sergeant Hahn literally holds on to that memory with a bucket of Tootsie Rolls made specifically for him with American flags after the company heard his story. Those Marines that made it out are now revered as the heroes of the Frozen Chosen. But this one calls Texoma home, and he chooses to spend his time right here in the Sherman VFW.
I feel like they're brothers. This, to me, is part of the military.
As this veteran reflects on a life of service most would never know, Hahn would do every second of it again. The few, the proud, the Marines.
It was such an honor to be able to sit down with Jim, and I just want to say right here on the record, thank you for your service. Not only a World War II veteran, a 3-war veteran. He decided to just keep going back. I know.
And you know, I had heard that, I knew that there was something involving Tootsie Rolls, but that was the first time I actually heard that full story, and that is so incredible.
And he's just walking around Texoma.
Oh, how cool.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Welcome back to the Battle Rhythm Podcast. I am Caesar. Again, this has been a great show. So far, I am joined by a plethora of people today. I have Mr. Eric Dudash, who is the current VFW state commander for the Department of Alabama. I have the past state commander of Alabama, Scott Gedling, and then I have a past state commander from the state of Louisiana, Bobby Laverne. The past state commander from Texas, Mr. Lynn Toomer. And I am your host. Who? So we're here, but I want to let you guys know that we have been. I've been flooded with a lot of questions in our social media platform, and I want to go back to one that is kind of a continuation of what we were talking about earlier in regards to the PAC Act. So Matt West says, "Is the PAC Act, is the VA adding places, but are we not they're not announcing it because veterans need to know?"
I think I can answer that one, Caesar.
Go ahead.
They're not adding any within the PACT Act. We are pushing that expansion with the toxic hazard exposure. And there's 3 locations on there. I think if you look, I had it somewhere here, but the VFW's got a fact sheet out on that, and that's probably one of the issues they're going to bring up to Capitol Hill on our trip in March. K2 and Fort McClellan resonating with me pretty much because I've talked to a lot of veterans. I had one very passionate at our last conference about K2 and the friends that he'd served with and the issues that they were having. And then I know very passionately about Alabama because we were pushing that from our State Board of Veterans Affairs that I sat on. We did a unanimous resolution to Congress to our legislators and federal legislators to pass that Fort McClellan into the PACT Act. And we missed it the first time. They watered it down to a study internal to the VA instead of expanding the territory.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think right now they're, other than we're trying to push legislation for that, an expansion of the PACT Act, that there's nothing from the VA that's going to go forward.
Right. And then, as you can see, Matt West has stopped the claim sharks that Bobby, I think, mentioned that earlier. So you were about to say something, Bobby. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think there have been some expansions into, presumptive claims. Just recently, I think last week, they put out another list of some more stuff that was added to the presumptive claims list off of the PACT Act. But in what Scott's saying, as far as expanding the sites, personally, I think they need to look at all bases because there was a list floating around with contaminants that was on basis for water supplies and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And there was numerous bases that had 75 to 80% contaminated water. Not just Camp Lejeune, it was other water tables as well. But I think that's something that we need to look at and push. And if this was a factual study on the bases and the water supplies for these other bases, that we need to look at all of that, not just limit it to Camp Lejeune. We need to look at all of them, McClellan and any of the other ones that I would say 50% or higher. We need to take and have a serious study done on to see if that is part of what's causing cancerous and everything else that's going on.
And I feel like it should not be just limited to the water table because I remember when I was actually in the National Guard in California, we went to our main area to go train and everything was called Camp Roberts. Camp Roberts was up in the Central Valley of California, and the barracks that were there, its heyday was in 1942, 43. So it was right during World War II. Those buildings the barracks that we actually stayed at were the original buildings they were at, like literally in the 40s. So everything was there. A lot of them were, were abandoned because they couldn't tear them down because of asbestos. So there was a certain way that they had to demolish them and actually get rid of them, and it was hard. And obviously the states have almost no money for them to do that, especially the National Guard units, so the national, because they only have enough money to operate for your weekends and whatever else and whatever staff is throughout the year. And something like taking in such, I'm talking about hundreds of buildings that have the asbestos. They finally started getting through the years. They started doing that. But think of how many soldiers, veterans had gone through and stayed in those barracks that were exposed to asbestos, right? So it's not just one, not the water table that we're looking at. We got to look at everything else that there is. Our ships, our own vessels had asbestos in them, and a lot of people don't realize that you're in the midst of asbestos, and I think we should expand something like that because it's not just a water table, it's not just a chemical, it's other agents or other components in every branch that everybody is exposed to.
Exactly.
Think about lead poisoning, lead paint, indoor rifle ranges. That used to be a huge thing.
Yeah.
And they got smart way back when and shut all of them down. But how many people were exposed and went through that before they figured out maybe they shouldn't do that on the indoor rifle ranges?
Yeah.
Them on those old buildings are just outrageous, the expense on it. That's what's killing the states where these are located. I mean, I remodeled one VFW post, and it cost me $40,000 to do asbestos testing in one building. It cost me $40,000 to do the testing and cut 4 holes in the walls for doors.
Wow.
So just imagine doing a whole building.
Jeez. So I want to go ahead, Eric.
Yeah. So kind of going back, I think it was Matthew West that asked the question with regards to stop the claim sharks. We get a chance to listen to a lot of veterans out there. And we say it all the time, stop the claim sharks. Well,
hold on, let me stop you right there. People don't, a lot of people may not know, some of our listeners may not know what a claim shark is. A claim shark is somebody that organization that claims that they're going to do your VA ratings, and they're going to help you with to navigate through the VA system to get you your entitlements, right? You're up to your percentage that you have to do, but they take a percentage off the top. So whatever you get back, whatever back pay you get, they're going to take 30, maybe sometimes you end up to 40% from what you're supposed to be getting back. That's what the claim charge. That's what we're talking about with claim charge.
And I'm going to add on that real quick, Caesar, before I ask the question. But yeah, these claim sharks are also taking any future claim, maybe 10 to 15%, even if they represent you or not. So these are what we call claim sharks. They're not. There's a lot of great lawyers out there doing great work. I'm not saying that's all lawyers or anything like that. It's these individuals that are predatory. We keep saying it. As the veterans of foreign wars, stop the claim sharks, stop the claim sharks. I'm going to ask each of you a question. How do we prevent veterans from going to claim sharks?
I can answer that one.
All right.
We get more certified service officers that can handle their claims. And that's at the VA level, at the state level, at the post level. We have to invest the money and get these guys certified and get them the insurance that they need. That's the biggest thing about that's why everybody's bailing off of the service officers, is because of the what do you want to call it? The chance that they might file a claim improperly and get sued for it. So we just got to have more qualified, certified service officers. And we've got posts out there that have plenty of money that can make that happen at their post. They need to do it.
Yeah, Eric, he nailed it with that. We got the service officer program. Bobby knows this from council too. Man, I have been passionate about service officer, and I beat them up every council meeting about what are we doing about it as an organization. You realize that the Veterans of Foreign Wars has the same amount of service officers today that we had before the PACT Act. We got the same budget for service officers that we had before the PACT Act. We hadn't expanded it. We talk about BDD, before discharge representatives on the installation. So when they're going through TAP program that we're processing and helping them get their claims going, the VA is automatically enrolling them after the PACT Act now kicked in a couple of months ago with automatically enrolling them under the VA. It doesn't put them in a VA claim, but it gets them under the VA healthcare system under the umbrella. But we got to expand those service officers. And just like Lynn said, I'm pushing from the state. We're pushing hard to, I'm on the State Board of Veterans Affairs, so we just pushed to get 6 new service officers in the state. But, it's hard to send one of them to a federal installation because not all them veterans are coming back to state Alabama. And so the state, they watch their resources. But as an organization, that's one of our core missions. That's where the rubber meets the road. A lot of times that's the only experience they have with a veteran foreign war is that contact with a service officer. That's what we use to get them to join. It's a selling point. But until every single veteran out there gets the care and the benefits they deserve, we're not done. We can't spike the football just because we got the PACT Act or Elizabeth Dole Act. We need to get quality accredited service officers on every single veteran and get them the care and benefits that they need. And I won't never let my foot off the gas on that one. We got to push that in every way we can.
So we got another comment from Willie Keller. Yeah, go ahead.
The one thing in Louisiana does is we have a service officer for every parish through the Louisiana Department of Veteran Affairs. So we got a total of 64 service officers in the state that's accredited, plus the ones who works in the office. We have a total of 77 accredited service officers that works for the Louisiana Department of Veteran Affairs. Now, that's not counting the lawyers and within the state that are accredited to do the service officer. But the problem is when you got a veteran who thinks, oh, it's taking too long to happen. Hell, I got a claim that's over a year old, but it's going through the system. You got to be patient. And all of these claim sharks are saying, oh, yeah, we can get it done. But those claim sharks cannot file through the VA system. They will do the paperwork, hand you the paperwork back and tell you to mail it. And they have no way to track it. Whereas I can call my service officer that says, hey, can you tell me what's going on with my claim from me not being able to see everything I want to see on the VA website? He can go in and look at it and say, hey, they've sent it back for this to get more information on what you went for your exam for. The doctor didn't write it the way they wanted, so they want it rewritten. But when you go to Claim Shark, they can't do that. But yet they're going to have their hand out the minute you get the claim and say, hey, I want 20% or I want 25%, where the veteran shouldn't have to be paying at all. So get more service officers is going to help, but we also need to educate the veteran that it's not something that's going to happen any
Overnight.
quicker going to a Claim Shark than what it is going through an accredited service officer.
Right. So, and then this is what Willie Keller said. And right now, stopping the claim sharks was part of the briefing that he had with the Lieutenant General there at Cavazos. He said, I have been meeting with some of the claim sharks running around Fort Cavazos, going to their old units. So even people that have gotten out that are now, they're like, oh, I'm going to make a side hustle or whatever, and they're going into these units that they know people. They're like, oh, you're about to get out. Oh, here, let me help you with the paperwork, but I'll get 10, 15% of whatever you get. So that's taking advantage of somebody that doesn't know the system yet, unfortunately. And you're right. I think there has to be a more central let's be honest. Unless you send that package, the original paper or what the paper where you said, and you mail it, you have to register it. If you register, at least they're able to be insured or whatever. Then somebody has to sign it on the other side. The quickest and easiest way now to do it is to actually do it through the VA online system, because everything is, it has the timestamp when you sent it, and everything is tracked that way. So they can't tell you, they're like, oh, we never received this paperwork, and it is what it is. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to submit it again, right? And then you may miss your intent to file window. You may miss it because it was longer than that, and then like now you have to send it. They're like, oh, it's been over a year, sir. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to redo it again, and now your intent to file is gonna start from the day after. So my recommendation is, if you're gonna do a claim, do your intent to file, and then gather all your evidence, and then have a service officer help you look for those keywords, and then submit it through your own login, so you know exactly what to follow, where to go, because it's all timestamped, and they're accountable for that if they miss something, because it's on their dime. And again, going back to, it's not going to be overnight. The longer it gets, the more back pay you get. So it's a win-lose situation in some ways, right?
Yeah, no, and I appreciate all your answers. Totally agree. I think we all agree. I'm glad that we kind of have talked about this before in past conversations. We need more VSOs. What I love about the VFW, and I think you guys can add in some more to this, is it's educate, educate, educate. We talked about TAPS briefing. We briefed that last year at Washington, D.C. It's still going to come up this year in Washington, D.C. How do we get this message out to these individuals? I've heard anybody from an E1 to a whatever getting hit by a claim shark. It doesn't matter how long you've been. It's happening to various ranks. I don't care how long you've been in. And I love hearing the marketing department, and I love hearing, ways that we can get out there and tell folks, stop using said individuals, because we do it for free. And not only is it's not just VFW members. We talked about it earlier, Caesar. It's all we're here for every veteran is important to us. So I appreciate you guys' answer with the VSOs, because we all know that funding is not always there.
One thing, can I go on what Willie was saying? That's a DOD issue that they letting people back onto the base to take and talk to these individuals that aren't accredited. Whereas we have the TAPS briefing, where we have people on the bases giving the TAPS briefing, explaining to them what the VFW VSOs or the state VSOs will do for them. So maybe it's something that we need to get with DOD and say, hey, why are you letting these people onto the bases that's taking money from these people when they get taking money from the veterans as they get out to file a claim that it's not costing them anything to get done?
Yeah, the issue that we're pushing this time on legislative is the TAP program, but it's a little more than that. We're asking that a accredited service officer be a part of every TAP briefing, every TAP program.
Yep.
So where I think the VFW can do the most good is we've got a certain amount of BDD officers now out there on active installations. But we don't have every active installation covered, and we probably could never afford to cover every active installation. But we can increase what we got.
Yep.
Every installation that's doing the transition assistance program ought to have an accredited service officer, whether they're provided by the VA, the service organization. In our case, if the state, we got 3 installations here in Alabama that do TAP. None of them have accredited service officers on base as part of that program, and we can fix part of that. Our National Guard headquarters huge in every state. Guard, Air Guard, Army Guard. We ought to put one. Every state ought to put one on that installation to handle all of their retirements and their transitions. And then these active installations, they got to have a plan. We're pushing that issue in Congress, but we're not giving them a solution. We're telling them it's a problem, but we don't have a solution from the VFW of how they're going to get an accredited service officer as part of the transition program on every installation. So we need to push that.
Okay. Lynn, I want to ask you a question, and I asked Bobby earlier today before you got on, and I want to ask you straight out, what type of leadership style do you most resemble, or actually emulate the most? And what I mean by that, it's like what drives you to be to have the team that you're going to have, right? How are you going to be able to handle those hard conversations within your team, and how are you going to be able to mentor them, right? So that's one way that our leadership styles are very different. Some people say like, I'm going to do it this way, and this is the way I want to do it. Or are you going to allow somebody to actually give them a direction, but then make the decision themselves? How would you handle that?
Well, being a Marine, I like to lead from the front, of course. But in a situation when you're handling 1.4 million veterans, you have to be smart enough to listen and take advice and make the proper decision. I mean, there's just no way around it. You can't run through the middle of it. You can't charge that hill without somebody giving you the right directions and the way to go into that combat area. And that's what we're doing with these veterans. When we're representing, when we're leading these veterans, we've got a core group around us that are giving us the proper guidance, the proper recommendations. And we take those recommendations and make the right decision.
That's a very good point. That, you know, we have to have direction. Everybody has to have direction. You know, you don't just go into a job, you know, without without any type of direction or a idea how to manage that job. So that's basically right. I can't argue with that. Willie said there are units. The units are unaware that they just know that the person was a past senior leader in the unit. You're right. Like a lot of people just go out, you know, come back when they have a full set of hair and they don't even know that they were, you know, they're old sergeant major or whatnot, because they're brand new people. You know, people are rotating every 2 years, 2-3 years. So that's a very true statement. All right. So I want to take I want to ask you guys, and I'm going to ask you these the next segment in the show. Some of you guys have seen it, some of you guys have not, but the whole premise of this segment is, when I ask you the question, is you're going to answer the question the first thing that comes to your mind. All right, so that's what we're going to do. So this is called
Rapid Fire Questions of the Week, sponsored by James Oreskog, giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
My favorite segment of the show is rapid fire questions, because these questions are just questions that come to mind and you have to answer them honestly and directly, the first thing that comes to your mind, because you know, I need to see how you're going to handle the stress. I think we all want to know how each one of you is going to handle the stress. Okay. And obviously, we've all had training on how to handle stress. Some of us may be good at it. Some of us may not be. I don't know. But I just like to do it because it's fun. So, all right, I'm going to start with Bobby. Since you were the first one on, I'm going to give you that courtesy. Bobby.
Yes, sir.
Favorite military movie?
Few Good Men.
Okay. I see where you went there. Scott.
You can't handle the truth.
Yeah, you can't handle the tooth. Yeah. All right, Scott. Who is your favorite military leader? Historically.
I'm going to say General Hill. He was Corps commander for First Corps, and he went on to Southcom as Southcom commander.
Which era?
This would have been early 2000s.
Okay. Lynn, in your opinion, and the Marines are out, what is the best service?
Boy, there's not a best service. In the combat zone, it's all of us. I mean, I was in the biggest tank-on-tank battle in Marine Corps history, and we had fixed wing, Air Force on station. Everybody was there rocking and rolling, artillery coming in, you name it. We had everybody. Navy was dropping bombs on them. These guys didn't have a chance. And it's because we all worked as a team. So I can't say there's one. If I had never been in the combat zone, Caesar, absolutely, I'd say Marine Corps was the best, or Navy was the best, or whatever. But being in the combat zone, being boots on the ground, I saw it in action, and I saw what it did. I saw power.
Stateside. It's stateside. All right, Bobby. All right, what's your favorite sport?
Baseball.
Baseball. And if there's one thing that you could change within the VFW right now, and if you were, for the question purpose, if you were commander in chief for one day, what would you change right away?
Is that for me?
Yes.
Marketing.
Marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We gotta put our name out there. We gotta be, let everybody know what we do.
Okay. No, I mean that's a fair question. Scott, if you were, I'm gonna up the ante here. If you were president for one day, what would be the first thing you change?
President of the country.
Sure, why not?
I'm president of the organization. I mean,
it doesn't matter who do a president. If you're the president, okay, let's go president with a president of the U.S.
What am I president of?
President of the U.S. If you were president for the U.S. for one day, you had supreme power. What would you do to change in an instant?
Bring America's leadership back to the world stage.
That's fair. All right, Lynn. If you were the Secretary of State, what would be the first thing you would change?
The Secretary of State. First thing I would change.
Okay, hold on. Let me change that. The Secretary of Defense.
Secretary of Defense?
Yeah.
I would definitely give our troops everything they need to win the battle.
And this is for all of you. If there's one piece of equipment that you would have loved to have while you were in service, what would that piece of equipment be? Bobby, we'll start with you.
I mean, we had it the A-10. You ain't gonna win a war without an A-10. I mean, especially ground war with the coverage that they could give. And I mean, that was a unit I was in, and I saw what it was capable of doing during Desert Storm.
And it's still ringing right now. FYI, it's still going. It's probably the oldest.
Well, B-52 is the oldest that we got in the fleet, but the A-10 is.
Well, I mean, it's still in combat. It's still in combat zones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But because the V-52, or the B-2 or the 50, they're not really flown as much.
No.
Anymore. It takes almost like $2 million for it to run. So it's a lot. Scott, what about you? What would be one piece of equipment that you would that we'd love to have while you're running?
I'm gonna say long range precision fires. I don't care whether it comes from the air or come from the ground. I mean, still on target, way out where I can't see them, and where I'm not in harm's way, or where my soldiers are not in harm's way. If we can reach out and touch them, the farther the better.
Lynn, what about you?
A drone.
Yeah.
We didn't have drones when I was in the Marine Corps. When I was on the battlefield, that would have been a great tool to have.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to put people in harm's way without knowing what you're getting into.
And you're talking about like the mid-range, right? We're not talking about UAVs, right? We're talking about the smaller drones, like the off the shelf ones.
All the above.
Oh,
I'd like to add any of them I could get my hands on. It would have been great to have those. I mean, especially when you're in the desert and you can see 10 miles, but it's all flat. So you can't see what's dug in out there until you're standing on top of it.
So I want to let you guys know that somebody in the social media said easy on the sergeant majors. So I said I have a retired colonel on the panel. I also have a retired sergeant, and then Bobby. I don't remember which side you were on.
Sergeant.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, so we're good. And then they said if they're retired, they're like, oh well, but if they're retired, they're still subject to the UCMJ. So please be careful what you say. So, all right, let's continue with these questions. I hope you guys are having fun with this because, like I said, it just kind of gives us a sense of identity to get to know you guys a little bit in a different light. I know we talked about certain not concepts, but certain things that are really affecting our veterans, and not only veterans, but our country, right? And these issues, as much as the candidates for actually U.S. Congress or whoever want to touch on, they touch on a little bit, but I think for the veteran community, I think us, the VFW as an organization, even the American Legion and the DAV touch on these organizations. We're the ones that actually are doing the work for the veterans, because yes, the The congressmen do have, support the veterans and whatnot. They could do what a little bit they could do, but it's these organizations that actually have and make the difference for the veteran community. Am I wrong?
Correct.
I am. I am wrong. Okay. All right. So, Scott, I'm going to start with you. All right. Besides Alabama, what other state would you actually consider running and running for department office?
I'm gonna say Florida.
Stole my answer.
I commanded a battalion in Iraq, and I had 5 companies from Alabama and 1 from Florida. And in my time as a chief operations of Alabama, I had a ton of friends in Florida. I still got a bunch of friends in Florida, and we still talk on a regular basis. Even though we've been out for 10 years, we still catch up with each other and keep up with the ones that are still serving in both our states. So,
yeah. Bobby, besides Louisiana, what other state would you consider running in?
I think I'd say North Carolina.
Oh, we're gonna keep it Southern Conference. Okay.
Well, no, hey, it's got to go north of I-10. So,
yeah.
Is there a specific reason why North Carolina?
I like the way things are. They do things in North Carolina. They got a lot of good plans, and I just like that area over there.
Okay. Lynn, what about you? Besides Florida, because he already took it.
They already took Florida. Already took North Carolina. I'd have to say California.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
No,
nothing wrong with that.
I'd have to say California, because boy, the influence that the VFW has on the legislative branch, they need a lot of help out there in California.
There you go.
So I'd love to go help them and let them hear it from the troops what they need to do, because that place is jacked up.
From the floor up.
Yeah, California's a mess.
No doubt about that.
Straightening them out.
All right. So I'm gonna extend that question to Eric, because I know you're the current commander of Alabama. So what other state would you consider running in? And you can't use any of the states that have already been mentioned.
Trying to, man, yeah, that's not fair. You know,
No,
what I mean?
it is.
I'm not even running for this junior vice. Yeah,
But-
so that's good. I would say, hey, I'm gonna be real easy. I like to hunt and fish. I'm going to Alaska.
Ooh. All right.
There you go.
I'm gonna if I extend the same curse or the same question to myself, I would say Georgia.
Okay, Georgia.
There's only one reason for that, because every time the Georgia commander goes, he's got 2 dudes right behind him, like, they're like security. It's like, oh, he's like, you're not getting ready. I'm more important than the president. That would be no. I'm just kidding. I want to say a shout out to our comrade Sherrod Conyers. He's out there. A little tidbit about Sherrod and I. So when I was in the Guard in California, he was actually the post commander in Inglewood in California. Inglewood, that post, I believe, closed down because there was a railway that actually ended up going through there, and they had some issues with it, and he ended up moving to Georgia. But he was a post commander. I didn't know it, and I ran into him at the national convention. I was like, "I know you." I'm like, "Who else has a name of Sherrod?" And I was like, "I know you. Weren't you the commander in such and such?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, I told him, I said, I was in that unit that your post sponsored, VFW in Inglewood. I was in F Battery 144 artillery unit, and he's like, "Oh my gosh!" He's like, I remember you guys." He's like, "You guys' commander I had a commander who was a Chief Warrant Officer 3. He was our commander because it was a battery. It was a radar battery. So for our radar unit, we were able to actually have a Chief Warrant Officer as our commander." So, and he remembered me, and I was like, ever since then we've been talking here and there, and that's my story with Sherrod, and I know that some of you guys know because he's on the honor guard and for the national, so you guys have seen him for sure. So, and then Willie said he would go with California. He would go with you to California. So, all right. So let's talk about this. Each one of you has been on this trail for a while, and I know how much financially and how much time you've devoted to this. What does your wives think about this? Because it's not just you running; they're running too. Your family are, you're putting a lot of family time or things that you could do aside. So, Bobby, I'm going to start with you. What does your family think about this?
Before I made this decision to run, we sat down and talked and made sure that I had their support, because you can't do this by yourself. Like you said, it takes all of us. So before I made the decision to throw my name in, and you figured this year makes 2 years I've been on the campaign trail. I made my first visit the second week of January to Virginia. So that was last weekend. So in 23. So now it's been 2 years that I've been out there on this. But that was before, like I said, before I even made the decision to run. We sat down and had a family meeting, and they all said we stood behind me and supported it.
That's the thing that you have to have the approval of. I always call it of the admiral or the general. It's actually the supreme commander.
Right.
As it is. Scott, what about you, Scott?
Yeah, so it's mutual support for us, because my wife was running on the national level last year on the auxiliary side of the house, and so we had kind of dual campaigns going on. Other than on the auxiliary side, they campaign the entire country, so they do most of their business at conferences. But it was a ton of challenges, and it's hard sometimes to get to all the states that you need to get to, and you want to visit all of them more frequently. Financially, it's a challenge. I'm a business owner, so I've been blessed with my business, which is a curse too, because as my company gets bigger, it takes more of my time, and it starts taking away from what I can do. But financially, it's been good. And Alabama's a broke department, so I don't ask them to fundraise for me, because if they fundraise, they need to support their cause. And I got the commander's special project on my hat right there, Warrior Freedom. So when they raise money, give it to a good cause.
So somebody is endorsing you, Scott, and they've asked me to actually put this online. I am fully behind my husband. I really feel he is the best candidate for the job. I mean, she beat your wife, Bobby, and Lynn. She beat your wife too. So there you go. And then Willie says approval of Household 6.
Yeah.
So there you go. So Lynn, what about you? How did you come to the same conclusion?
Oh heck, you got to understand, running for junior vice in the Department of Texas is a huge financial commitment. So my wife was pretty used to that already, since we discussed it when I ran for Texas. It was a little tougher. We had to have a little more discussion when I decided to run for National Junior Vice Commander in Chief. But she's fully on board. She fully supports me. She works my booth when we go to the different states. She travels with me 90% of the time. When she's not with me, I got Willie Keller or one of my past state commanders with me. But yeah, it's without the family support, there's no way you could do this. Not and still have a wife when you get back.
Right. And let me just say this. Bobby, I have not had the pleasure of actually meeting your wife yet, but I've met both Lynn and Scott's, and that was the first thing I asked them. How do you put up with them? and their question was like, well, those little hospitality drinks that we have. Yeah, they keep coming. That's basically their answer. So, and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying that, like, you know, a lot of times it's like we take them for granted. I know a lot of times, like, I take my wife for granted for the smallest things, and we have to make sure. And I take this as, you know, with a grain of salt, or, you know, that you guys appreciate them and tell them, hey, I really appreciate you, you know, doing this, because it's not just a 1-year commitment. It's 7 years almost that you're going to be doing this. I mean, you're 2 years on the trail, you know, 4 to get in, and then the 5th one is you know, the past commander and the immediate past commander, and, you know, after that is the golden years, I guess. But it's a long commitment. It's more than 5 years. How do you guys, you know, are you guys prepared for that long journey?
Hey, wouldn't have jumped out there if it wasn't.
Yeah, and I've been fully on board. The original owner of my company was a World War II vet, and he came in one day and said, "Hey, Lynn, you're a vet, right?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, my medication's getting so expensive I can't afford it. So can you make some phone calls and find something out and see if you can get me some help?" So I called around, and they sent me to my local VFW post, which turns out my aunt's husband was a service officer there. Didn't know it at the time. I hadn't seen my aunt in 20 years since I went in the military, and went in there. The service officer took care of him, and I've been a member. I've been on board with the VFW ever since, and we've been going full blast in it ever since. And I won't stop. I believe in this organization. I believe in what we do, and I believe in our troops. I believe in our people.
So, with that,
go ahead, Caesar. Yeah, first of all, I want to say, hey, Caesar, too, I'm going to give you a shout out for giving these individuals a forum to be able to share some of those answers to the tough questions. And I will tell you, as far as just the outsider, right, just co-hosting, just doing a lot of listening, the VFW is in damn good hands. You sit here and you listen to these 3 candidates and how they talk about their spouses and how they, let's be honest, got their approval. You can put it however you want it, right, guys? But you got their approval. But I will tell you, VFW, they will not let each other fail. I don't care who gets elected. I can guarantee you one thing. Whether I'm looking at the screen in order, I'm going from Lynn to Scott to Bobby. They will not let each other fail because they're accountable to each other. So I just want to say thanks. I have to add that in there. I know it's not really a question, but I want to say thanks.
Let's make this clear, though. They're not only accountable to each other, but they're also accountable to the membership.
Absolutely.
Because the membership is what drives each and one of you, and the membership is the one that elects you.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Absolutely.
if you're, again, I'll bring this back, and I'm not making any assumptions, or I'm not saying that you are those, but like I said, my commander has always told me there's 2 people, and I said this before. There's 2 types of people that join the VFW. The ones that, what can I do for the VFW, and the other one is, what can the VFW do for me? So I'm not saying that each one of you is one or the other. I'm just saying that that's the kind of 2 people that join. And to me, from what I've known you guys for a year now, each one of you, I've known Lynn for a few more, but I don't see that in you guys. I see that you guys are about the organization. You guys want to get things done because you care about not only your own well-being within the organization and the different things that it brings, but also for everybody else that's behind us, right? The entire membership, and the membership is what drives this organization. If we don't have the membership, we have no organization. If we don't bring the membership, we have no organization, and we're going to lose those fights in Congress and legislation. We're going to lose those things, and this is why I keep driving and keep saying that. Get involved. If you don't get involved, you're not going to be able to grow the organization, right?
Exactly.
Join us on that.
So, all right. Before we close, I want to ask you one last question. Each one of you, one last question. Whether or not you get elected, and we're gonna pretend like you each one of you gets elected, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind in those 4 years that you're going to be 5 years that you're going to be at the national level. Bobby, I'm going to start with you. What is the legacy that you want to leave behind during those 5 years?
Legacy I'd like to leave behind is that we move forward with new technology, innovative ways to make things happen, and that we brought fun back to the organization. That when people do things, they're having a good time doing it, and they're not doing it just because Bobby said do this, or Lynn said do this, or Scott said do this. You need to let them have fun while they're doing the work of the organization, and you'll get more accomplished by doing that. And I just think that the biggest thing is fighting for veterans, family involvement, and having fun at the same time. And I can't do this alone, but we can do it together. And that's what we need to do.
Okay. Scott.
Making a difference in every veteran's lives. From those that are not part of our organization, we talk about our membership, but, we got to remember those veterans that are not part of our organization, not under the umbrella of VA or out there on their own. We got to keep up the fight for them. For a legacy, what I'd like to see is our organizations to be better branded, more image, work on our image with those outside of our organization. I mean, I think we got a tremendous opportunity to not just be known as the VFW, but as a true service organization, Veterans of Foreign Wars. We can do that through marketing. I think as senior leaders, we owe it to engage the corporate world, engage outside of our small veterans world, even though it seems like it's huge to us, but it's not in the grand scheme of things. And to build that image of veterans helping veterans, fighting for their benefits and care, and making sure that we never lose sight and honor their service and sacrifice, and promoting patriotism across the country. We all owe it to work on those things. I mean, the three of us or five of us here know we're all from great posts, but we know we got some posts that need to do better.
Yep.
Because they're a reflection on our organization, and we want to get every one of them up to the same standard values and that we all share as an organization. So let's make a difference. Get out there and do it. Get on with it.
Well said. Thank you. Lynn, what about you?
Our legacy is going to be putting a post on every installation in the United States. We were very fortunate. We've done that in the state of Texas. We put one on Fort Hood. It's the only post on a military installation in the continental United States. And we are going to do that all across the country. That's where we're going to get more membership than you can shake a stick at. And that's what we've got to push. And that's what I want to see happen.
Thank you for being candid in regards to what you guys are going to planning to do and hoping to do. I really, from the bottom of my heart, I really do wish each and one of you success, and I can honestly say that, like Eric said, that the organization's in good hands. Whoever wins this, or whoever gets elected, we have something to look forward to in the next 4 years. That we're going to have a really good, really good team set apart. That they're going to set us apart and put us move forward with the organization itself. And again, you guys are friends of the show, and anytime you guys want to come in and actually just kick the bucket, do whatever you want to do, not kick the bucket literally, but come in and shoot the shit basically, you guys are more than welcome. You guys are more than welcome to come anytime you guys want to. And I want to thank you guys for doing this, because I can honestly say that the official VFW podcast did not have this type of debate or this type of forum with the three of you guys, and my show did. And I want to thank each and one of you guys for taking the time and doing that, because I think that a lot of, like I said earlier before, that a lot of our members do not get to see you guys because they don't get to go to these conventions. They don't get to go to the midwinters or the state conventions, and they're in the post. And As a national candidate, you don't really get to go to those things. You know, as a state candidate, you do get to go to the districts, but not really so much to the post. But as a national candidate, it's completely different ballgame. So I can honestly say that my show beat the official VFW podcast to having this type of platform for you guys to share your ideas and show us your vision and what you see the organization in 3, 4, 5 years and even up to 20 years, like Willie mentioned. But I really thank you guys for taking the time to coming in and sharing those things with me. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate having us on, Cesar.
Yep.
Anytime.
Thanks for what you
Anytime, you guys. So I want to thank our guest tonight, like I did. But I also want to thank some of the people that actually were on our social media. Thank you, Willie. I don't know what I rock because I'm rocking my chair and I'm rocking myself because I'm tired. So I was rocking a little bit, so I apologize. And then Matthew West, thank you so much. Again, this is just a little platform that I do. And then remember, Military Broadcast Radio, its own motto is giving veterans a voice. So with that, I'm using my platform to help you guys reach those post members or those organizations or even those members of the organization that do not get to hear you. So by you sharing that, thank you so much. So you guys have made my show. This is probably one of the most successful shows I've had in the year that I've been on. So I've had a lot more viewers today than I did before because thank you to Eric because he actually was able to put it out. And Bobby, I apologize that you didn't get the text saying that we were going to be on, but I appreciate you coming in.
But I sent out 20 text messages said I'd be on, so that's why some of those were.
Well, then my plan worked. Then my plan worked. So you guys, is there any last minute things that you guys want to mention before we get off the air?
Good luck, Scott. Good luck, Lynn, in Florida this weekend. I'll be in South Carolina. So y'all have a good trip to Florida.
You'll be in South Carolina. I thought we were having a party on the beach.
That maybe you having a party on the beach. I'm going to South Carolina.
I think all of them got snow and in cold weather.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Bob doesn't even know what a snow shovel is, so I'm gonna help you with that. So just take if you have one of those big oil pans that you put underneath your car, use that and then just push it out. But if you have if you have gravel, then you can't do that.
Going to Florida.
I hear you.
My brother's retired command sergeant major. He lives down south of Mobile, and they had a bunch of snow today. And he sends me pictures, and then he says, "Trump's been in office for one day, and he's already solved global warming."
That's it.
or the other thing is, hell froze over. So,
yeah,
we had 14 inches out here.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Gotta love
That's way too much.
Yeah, no. So, all right. You later.
Snow in 5 years.
Yeah. So Eric, thank you so much for being here and hosting. And I know I hit you up last week. And Eric was supposed to be my guest last week, but he's like, "Oh, I have this thing called the post meeting." I was like,
"Yeah,
the show is more important than the post meeting."
Yeah, no, I love my post meetings. I love being a post member. Like everybody here.
He still wears. Don't let him fool you. He still wears his post, like his State Department, commander hat to this post member. He's like, no, you can't talk to me like that.
That's right. Yeah. I love on each one of our hats. You know what's on the front is your post number.
That's it.
It ain't what, but it's your post number. So I love being a post member first.
That's it.
Hey, I tell you what, Eric, do you want to come back next week?
Oh, actually, I've been my first Bassmasters is now. I'll be fishing. Hopefully, have some video for y'all and be on TV next week. So,
okay,
I'll be heading to Lake Kissimmee next week for my first Bassmasters event. Yeah.
Because Willie says he wants to do a show with you,
dude. I'll do it, but I might be on a boat when I do it.
Well,
no,
we'll think about it.
It's dark. I can do it. Come on, Willie. As long as you know, as long as you know, Willie, you're in Alabama and you don't get up in front of everybody and go, "Georgia, I'm so happy to be here," and we're in Alabama. He's like a rock star. Willie's like a rock star.
High tide.
High tide, Willie. High tide.
High tide. So, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here with me today. You guys are more than welcome to come back anytime. And I do hope that each one of your campaigns is successful. And whoever the one is elected, may the best man win. And that would be decided by the membership at our national convention at the Southern Conference Caucus.
August 9th.
That'll be, yep, August 9th. So I intend to be there. Depends on what life brings, and may or may not be able to show up, but I intend to be there. And I hope that we can actually do this once more there before we announce it, or before it's elected, and we can definitely have some good time there. All right.
Good deal.
So, gentlemen, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Eric, stick around after this. I will see you guys next week. Have a blessed week.
Take care, y'all.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.